And we do continue along. It is the Three Dog Thursday YouTube Roundtable. Again, party of two on the roundtable. Who better to help me if we're doing this? I see you. It's not a peace sign. It's party of two. He is from 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit. Also, the Task Force, the online show that you see. If you follow this guy, anything in Michigan sports, Detroit sports, he is Dan Leach back with us here as part of Three Dog Thursday. A reminder, if you're only hearing us through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you found a social media link, come see what we look like on the YouTube Roundtable. Brother Leach, always good to have you on the program. Thank you for hanging out with me here again on Three Dog Thursday and the YouTube Roundtable.
It's an honor, and you said it's a party of two. I'm like 3 or 4 people. I mean, I'm that multi-talented and very humble, too. So it's great to be with you, and people need to come see what we look like because I'm really good looking. You're like super good looking.
No, so I don't think so.
You got to get it
done. We both have faces
both have
for
a lot
podcasts.
Of hair, too.
Yeah, neither one of us have a lot on top up here, and we're definitely faces for podcast at this point. Okay, so my senior handicapper, Brian Edwards, and I just spent the better part of about 15 minutes going over and teeing off on the Big Ten and the college football playoff. So now the floor is yours. I bring you on here on the YouTube Roundtable, and we take a look at what the Big Ten announced on Wednesday at the time that we're doing this video roundtable. There it is, Mr. Leach. Ohio State handed a berth in the Big Ten title game despite not meeting the criteria that the Big Ten made up 2 months ago and said, you got to play 6 games. Okay, it's Ohio State. You don't have to play 6 games. You're in the Big Ten title game to play Northwestern. I've said a bunch. I want you to say a bunch. Go.
All right, before I get into anything, and it's all full disclosure, I'm obviously a huge Wolverine fan. I came out of the womb singing, Hail to the Victors. So let's get that out of the way. But before I get into anything, I'll say this. I think I understand why the Big Ten did what they did. But then I got to get into what my feelings are. Do you really think, and I understand that we're not going to have the game, Michigan-Ohio State, for the first time, in forever. I understand why we're not having the game. It's not Harbaugh ducking the Buckeyes. It's not trying to save face. 20 plus, 26 or so COVID positive tests. The Big Ten set up these rules. You got to follow them. That's what's happening. There's no, Kirk Herbstreit nonsense. They're going to screw Ohio State season. But do you really think if it was Iowa, if it was Michigan State, if it was Purdue, if it was Northwestern, that the Big Ten and Kevin Warren would have made an exception and said, okay, here's the rules. It's this pen. It's got to be these certain colors. You know what? Don't worry about it. We can have different colors because we want the pen to be somewhere else. Is there anyone that honestly thinks if it wasn't Ohio State, they would have made the exception? Now, there's a couple things, TJ. And like I said, the whole start of my diatribe, I get why they did it. It's the conference. You want to make money. You want prestige. Ohio State is one of the best teams in college football. Obviously, they're a top 4 or 6 team, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the problem with this crazy COVID college football year. Did I want them to play? Of course I did. But I was very nervous about them playing. And obviously with the million games that have been postponed or canceled and all the different issues and bending rules and rewriting rules, we know that maybe they probably shouldn't have played. As a Wolverine fan, I wish they did play. But I'm happy that there was college football. That being said, it doesn't smell right. I once again, it's not because I'm a Wolverine fan. I get why the Big Ten brass and Kevin, where the commissioner did this, but it's TJ. Let's just be totally honest. If it was Illinois and Lovie Smith in the same situation, there is no way they would have changed the rules. If it was brand new Mel, PJ Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans, who by the way have 2 more signature wins in his first year than Harbaugh does in 6 years. If it was them, would they have made an exception? I don't think so. So I get the conference beating of the chest. I get them wanting to have one of the best teams in college football with a chance to go to the college football playoff. But it's just all nonsense. It really is.
Well, okay, so give me an idea, too. I'm just curious because you have been talking about this for the last week and a half and about this possibility that's now a reality. A, they're not playing the game. And again, this is like the Grinch that stole Christmas. This is like pulling the Christmas tree lights and ornaments and plug out of the wall and taking the Christmas tree and lighting it on fire for Michigan and Ohio State fans to not have this game. So you have been among them, as I like to say, with all the Michigan fans, talking to them on the air, talking to them off the air. Give us an idea, give us a taste here on Three Dog Thursday. How distraught are they? Are they maybe ambivalent because Michigan's had such a bad year? How would you describe your audience and what Michiganders and Wolverine fans are saying about it?
Well, it's a great question. And, you know, if people that don't know, most people listen to this and are college football fans understand the rivalry, which isn't really a rivalry right now because Ohio State owns Michigan for the better part of 20 years. But it is one of the great games in college football every year. It's like the Iron Bowl. It's like, you know, back when USC and UCLA used to be. It's what Army-Navy is. It's one of the great rivalries in sports. But it's one of these things where, and I'll speak from what I'm hearing from the majority of fans, and it kind of leads into the way I feel as well. A lot of fans feel like it's better they're not playing the game because Michigan would have gotten embarrassed anyway. I mean, Ryan Day earlier this year said he wanted to put 100 up on the Wolverines. So I think that my prediction a few weeks ago after the Wisconsin loss was Ohio State 100-2, late Ohio State safety. That's the only reason Michigan would have any points. But the majority of people are glad they're not playing for the embarrassment part of it. But we're all high majority, 80+% are bummed because we've seen this game every year for over 100 years. And it really is special. And obviously we knew, you know, as fans, I've been to so many Ohio State-Michigan games. I was on the field with Charles Woodson in '97 with the rose in his mouth. I mean, I've been in so many great, amazing moments in that rivalry that even without fans, it's still to be able to watch it, to go into my dad's garage and, you know, socially distance and watch the game. That's a bummer. But once again, back to what I said earlier, this is a whacked out year.
Sure.
I thought there was no way the Big Ten was going to come back. Once they announced that they were done, I thought there was no way. You got Michigan State and Michigan, both their presidents are doctors. They were firmly against
playing. If you remember in late August when that was going on, there's a certain sports radio and talk friend of yours that had you on this very roundtable who said, watch them turn around and change their mind when everybody else is playing and they're not playing. And sure
you were
enough,
totally right.
Sooner or later, you got to listen to me once. You don't have to listen to me all the time, but sooner or later, once, you got to listen to me.
Implicitly, just sometimes it goes, you know, I forget. But it was a FOMO thing. It was a fear of missing out, and I get that. And if everyone else is playing, let's, you know, max 6-game season, you know, Pac-12, say 8 games, whatever they're playing. So I get it. And, you know, going back to that time, TJ, and I think I mentioned this on the show, I didn't think they were going to play. I wanted them to, but I thought that it didn't make any sense. And listen, have there been some nice moments for Indiana this year as Ohio State waxed a bunch of teams? Sure. But does the Big Ten has it really meant anything? I mean, aside from a couple moments here and there, you got a team that's being literally election results were overturned illegally and led into this game to use our election parlance, not politically affiliated. But you've got, you know, rules being rewritten on the fly. You've got games being canceled nonstop. You got a Michigan team with Jim Harbaugh who has lost this team in his mind a long time ago, not playing. You know, Harbaugh's message, TJ, was stay positive, test negative. Well, it happened. And it's not Harbaugh's fault. I'm not saying that. But it's one of these things where we know that this is the right thing. I mean, there's obviously some fans out there that don't care about signs. And why are they playing? Why aren't they playing? But we all know the majority of us, it's the right thing to do. It sucks. I feel bad for the student athletes, but the feeling I'm getting from the big Michigan fans that call my shows, and I've been on every postgame this year, there's been some doozies, is that they understand why they're not playing. And in a way, it's almost like, I know we're going to get to the Lions in a minute, I would never root against the Lions, but I won't be mad if they lose for better draft picks. And that's kind of where Michigan fans are. They wanted to see Ohio State, Michigan, but they're not mad they're not playing because it would have been probably 65-10. So that's where the fans are at right now. It does suck. My dad's bummed. I'm bummed. We had some ideas of doing an outdoor tailgate and watching the game, but, you know, it's probably, in all honesty, better for Michigan as Harbaugh negotiates this possible extension, which is a whole other crazy part of this. I don't want Harbaugh to walk away. Believe me, a lot of us do. It's so weird to think there'll be no Ohio State Michigan game. So at the root of it, it's very depressing.
No doubt. All right. So there you go. And as you mentioned, first time since 1917, WW1.
World War One, the war to end all wars.
Yeah. And so it's been played ever since. It will not be played this weekend. It's hard to fathom, but we got to accept that. All right. Here's something else that I want to put on a silver platter for you. The college football playoff latest rankings, the third rankings release out Tuesday night. And lo and behold, Ohio State is there. So I think everybody understands that they want the Big Ten to be part of this. Clearly, if they win the Big Ten title game, they're going to let them be the fourth team. I think that's rather obvious here in this scenario. My question would be, has the college football playoff kind of sold out here? Have they lost credibility with how hard they are pushing to have Ohio State in the Final Four of their playoff? Dan, what do you say? Because it appears with almost certainty that Ohio State is in if they win the Big Ten title game, even though they're only going to have 6 wins when other teams have 10 or 11 wins.
All due respect to Northwestern, Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten title game. They'll probably be 17-point favorites, if not more, like they were a couple years ago when they waxed the Wildcats. TJ, it goes back to where I've been at with this whole college football season. We knew that there were certain things put in place. We knew that there were certain conferences that were going to play less games. And I've said this all along. Like, let's say there's a scale from 1 to 10. 1 this season means nothing. 10, this is a regular season. We're somewhere around 5 or 6. I mean, it doesn't not matter, but it isn't a regular season. And that being said, once again, thank God we're playing for these student athletes. And obviously it sucked to see so many positive tests and cancellations and postponements. And what did UMass play 3 games and other teams are playing 12 games? This season was always going to be a hodgepodge of craziness. So on its merit, am I surprised? Is it them trying to finagle one of the best teams in the country in? Absolutely. But I can't get too angry because we knew this was the case. It's not an apples to apples season. It's a apples to guava to kiwi season. And the Buckeyes are the kiwi and the Clemson's the apple. And you can't trying to figure out the reasoning to make this make sense is like trying to figure out time travel. And it will make you go cross-eyed. So that's where I'm at with it. Do I think that they're, like, as you said, kowtowing to the Big Ten and the Buckeyes? Of course they are. Are the Buckeyes one of the top 4 teams in the country, even though they played 5 games so far? I mean, I guess. I would have to say probably. Great defense. Justin Fields is a revelation. Ryan Day's a great coach. Sure. But are the teams that played, Coastal Carolina, that played way more games than Ohio State, more deserving on the merit? Sure. But they're not going to get in. It's going to be the Buckeyes. They're the blue blood. They're the TV ratings darling. They're, Justin Fields, Heisman candidate. So, once again, the whole season, while it's been fun at times to watch it, it's been a disaster in many other ways. And that's why this whole scenario is a disaster as well. I'm not trying to be mean about it because you got to do what you got to do. They decided to play. This is what it's like you get what you reap what you sow. And that's where we're at with this.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, if it is Alabama, Clemson, some combination here, Notre Dame, Florida, Ohio State, maybe Texas A&M somehow gets into the mix depending on who wins, who loses, what happens. I mean, that's not a bad thing in terms of a cross-section of different programs across the board.
Yeah.
And in the cases of everybody but Ohio State, they played a full season. They played a 10 or an 11-game season to be able to try to get in. So we'll see on the college front. You're hearing the voice
TJ,
of,
I think also, we're not going to necessarily get all 4 of the best teams. We often might not get the 4 best teams. But the chances are, even in this crazy year, you're probably going to get pretty darn close to the 4 best teams that are in the playoff. That's just the way, whether they play 5 games or 12 games. And that's one thing you can kind of rest your, hat on or hang your hat on and say, okay, well, we're probably getting 90% of the 4 best teams. But even in a regular year, you're going to have teams that are on the outside looking in, like Penn State was a few years back. That's going to happen regardless. In this year, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to get pretty much the 4 best teams. But yes, there's a question mark a little further because some teams played 5 games, other teams played 12 games.
Very true. That's the voice of Dan Leach hanging with me for a little while longer on Three Dog Thursday. If you are only hearing us through the Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, however you found us, social media link. If you're subscribing on Apple Podcast or Spotify and only hearing us, find us on YouTube. Search Three Dog Thursday. You'll see what we look like. Dan, macked out male model. Come see what he looks like. Just trust me. Trust me on that. Okay, another one, again, right in your wheelhouse as we show the audience who is watching, obviously, with us. They're all watching if they're on the YouTube. There they are. Lo and behold, the Detroit Lions go to Chicago and knock off the Bears with the interim coach, Darrell Bevell, stepping in for Matt Patricia. Leach, you're supposed to be losing games at the end here when you've had a bad season to help the draft pick, like you said, yet this was a comeback win. This was impressive Sunday. Well, tell me more.
Yeah, it's the Bevell bump, my friend. And let me just say this, and Bevell's not going to be the coach. All due respect to Darrell Bevell. But, and I'm a sycophantic Lions fan. I've been my entire life. So it's very frustrating. I would never root against my team, but there's a few things here. One, it just shows you, and you saw a lot of this on social media from guys like Darius Slay and A'Shawn Robinson and Eric Ebron. Not that we really care about Ebron because all he does is drop passes. But it shows you how much they disliked Matt Patricia. Now, I will say this on a personal note because you know I'm an upstanding professional, my friend. Patricia liked me. I was one of the few he liked because I was fair to the Lions. I wasn't a hater. And, you know, he was always good to me in the 3 years he was here covering him. So I wish him well. I don't wish him any ill will. He was a terrible coach, though. Horrendous. Lost the locker room year one. Most of them hated him. He cleaned that up. Things got better, got worse, got better, got worse. But I would say at least, you know, close to the majority of his players seem to not like him. And you saw them go out against a bad Bears team. Let's be honest, they've been overrated all year, but they obviously had more wins than the Lions going in. And Trubisky had won 5 in a row against the Lions as well. Let's just look at the effort and passion and the excitement on the sideline and Stafford going nuts with the turnover and Adrian Peterson freaking out in the end zone. You could see how much they dislike, not everyone, but a lot of them dislike Matt Patricia. So that's one thing. And you always, every time this season with Houston, Atlanta, and the Lions, the interim coach won that first game, Cornell and Raheem Morris. So, you know, that's one thing that is kind of a trend a lot in sports, especially in the NBA. It happens when you got to kind of relax, you fire a coach, next game the team plays great, at least for a game. So that was part of it. It's another thing where I'm not going to cheer against my team. I'm not going to buy into, let's get the draft pick. It's one thing if the Lions were like a one-win team. They're not getting Trevor Lawrence. They're not getting Justin Strawberry Fields. It's about finding the replacement for Stafford, whether it's Trey Lance, whether it's Zach Wilson, whether it's Kyle Trask, who I believe is going to win the Heisman, by the way, on a side note. And, you know, it's a lot of Lions fans, because I've done the Lions postgame show for several years, and a lot of Lions fans get really angry when they win games they shouldn't. I'm never going to apologize for a loss. The guys, they're athletes. They're, you know, trying to be professional. They had a nice comeback win. It's really funny, though, TJ, because earlier this year when the Bears came back and beat the Lions, I believe they scored 17 unanswered in the fourth. The Bears were like a 98%, or Lions were a 98% favorite to win the game, like late in the fourth quarter. So were the Bears when the Lions came back. Just wacky. It's just a total NFL
2020. COVID. Welcome to 2020.
Welcome to 2020. But, you know, well, it's about finding the right GM. It's about finding the right coach, finally, for this sad sack, star-crossed franchise. That's what really matters. I'm not worried about the win. I bet the Lions win one more game. Maybe they beat Minnesota. Maybe they find a way to beat Green Bay, who they've kind of owned at times over the past, 3-4 years, especially during the Jim Caldwell tenure. And, you know, we worry about the draft pick later. Let's get the right GM. Let's get the right coach. And it's not going to matter unless they add an 8 seed. The Lions somehow win out, which is not happening. They're playing your Bucs coming up. That's a loss for the Lions.
That's true. I mean, the Buccaneers,
that's where we're at right now.
They finish up with the Vikings coming this week, the Falcons twice, but that Lions game now the day after Christmas on the Saturday at Ford Field looms very interesting.
Both
the Bucs trying to make the playoff position, playoffs period, and then what is the playoff position? Because you want to stay out of, if they keep it, you and I are disagreeing. You believe they're going to go to an 8th team. I don't know. They have already said they're going to go to 7 teams for sure in each conference.
They're so close to that 18. They're teetering on it.
Right. So, but if you're the 7 team, then you're in the 2 hole to play either the Saints or the Packers right off the bat on the road. So you want to stay out of the 7 hole if you can and be the 6 or be the 5 if you're jockeying for the wild card positions, the non-division winners in the NFC. So that Buccaneers-Lions game looms very large. Even if the Bucs, and I hope this is the case, were to win the next 2, beating Minnesota at Atlanta, that Lions game still looming large to stay out of the 7 hole because the NFC West teams are still battling. You still obviously have to contend with Minnesota maybe in the North as another team that could hang in and win. You gotta stay out of that position there. Try to get to the 6, try to get to the 5. The 5 gets to go play the NFC East on the road.
Yes. And well, the good news is too, and I get what you're saying, and you definitely don't want to play a team like the Saints or the Packers in the first round. But the good news is, if you're, the Bucs do end up being a 7 seed, which I believe they're going to be higher than that. We'll see. Is that home field advantage is nothing this year. So yeah, you don't want to have to travel, but it's not like you're going into Lambeau Field with 65,000 fans. It's not like you're going into Seattle with the 12th man. So it's going to really, I don't want to say even the playing field, but the playoffs, we know, TJ, that NFL home field advantage is by far in all sports the most important. And it's not going to be nearly as big of an issue this year. So it's not the worst thing ever if you end that 17, but you definitely, it's more about the opponent, less about where you're traveling to, if I will.
Understood. All right. Just a couple more minutes left with Dan Leach. I promised I wouldn't keep him too long here. We are going to talk more NFL in the final segment with Brian Edwards here in a few moments and some NFL prognostication, but I got you right here. It is 3 Dog Thursday. I'm staring right at the screen here again on the YouTube roundtable at the Lions getting 8 points at home in the rematch with the Packers. For 3 Dog Thursday purposes, are we saying negative Ghost Rider, the pattern is full? Do not go for the Lions there in that instance as we look at the odds here from mybookie.ag, one of our sponsors. No. Do I hear no? No on Lions plus 8?
What we're saying is don't touch the damn game. I said last week the Lions would beat the Bears. Not that I was like fired up about it, but I knew they would because it just totally made sense. Catching the 3 points on the road. If you had to take a side in that game, you've got to lay the 8 with Green Bay. But the Lions have played the Packers tough often in the last, off and on actually, but they had a run against Green Bay over the last 5 to 6 years, as I mentioned, going back to the Jim Caldwell era where they hadn't beaten Green Bay and Lambeau since the early 90s, and they did it a couple times. But you got to lay the 8 with the Packers if you're taking that game. I would stay completely away from that game.
I understand. You like this one much more that's on the screen, and that is the Vegas Raiders at home with the Colts. Why, real quick, do you like them plus the 3 if you had to take an under?
The DTF Squatch is outright upsets. Very, very solid this year. And listen, the Colts, incredible defense. I've been very good picking the Colts, by the way, and nice win for me with them last week against Houston. The Raiders are a very, very streaky team. I've been burned by them, but remember they covered against Kansas City a couple weeks ago. I know Jacobs is banged up, but I just think that when you look at Las Vegas, they're fighting for their lives right now. They're at home. You've got Derek Carr. You've got this, John Gruden coach team that it just seems like the perfect spot to beat a better team and keep themselves alive in the playoff hunt. So I like that as the outright upset. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like the Raiders get the job done. It just all the metrics are pointing towards an outright upset win for the Raiders.
And they're still hanging around in the AFC playoff picture, the Raiders we're talking about. And that amazing finish, conspiracy theories everywhere that Greg Williams was in the tank trying to help them be 0-16 and get the number 1 pick, calling that defense at the end of the game. But you still got to throw the ball and complete the pass, which Derek Carr did at the very end. We'll see if that continues. What is continuing is the great work by Dan Leach on 97-1 The Ticket in Detroit. I want to plug away with you as well, my friend, here as I show this to the fans on the screen. Find this man on social media at Dan Leach 97.1. There he is, that hunk of a guy. There you are, Dan Leach 97.1 on social media for 97.1 The Ticket, the all sports station, the FM all sports station in Detroit. And we want them to also peep right here the Task Force, which is your multimedia show. Look at this with his own guests, very similar looking to what we're doing. You're hanging out there on the Task Force multiple times a week online and you even have your own Twitter handle there, and they can find it where else? Plug away on where else they can find the task
Yeah,
force?
well, Leach Task Force on Twitter, but it always streams live to 3 different Facebook sites, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and having a lot of fun with it. We've had Mike Breen on. We've had a lot of Detroit, media and athletic celebrities on, and eventually the famed TJ Rives is going to be on as well. After football season, you're coming on for your own show.
You are truly desperate if you're bringing me on. You're thinking the Buccaneers
you're a
come
solid
through
citizen.
here for a couple of victories. We'll see if they are able to come through for a couple of victories. Again, my friend, thank you. I know that you are busy with other things. You've got your own stuff that you've got going on. But, hey, who better to help me sort out the Michigan-Ohio State thing and to talk about little Lions, et cetera. Keep knocking them dead on 97.1 The Ticket. They can find that online through what? Through Intercom's app. They can
radio.com,
find you,
and of course, 97ontheticket.com. You can stream it live as well, but it's on that radio.com app, and it's pretty cool. We have a rewind feature. So let's say there's a show or one of my shows, if you want to hear it and you miss it, you can go on the app and actually go back and listen to it.
Love that about you. No doubt. Play him to your heart's content there with all the cut-ups. And again, follow him at Dan Leach 97.1. Brother man, thank you. I appreciate you hanging out with me on 3 Dog Thursday on the YouTube Roundtable.
Always an honor, my friend. Stay healthy, and we'll see you on that Lions-Bucks game. We'll have to have some kind of a personal wager on that one.
Right after Christmas. Could be a post-Christmas present for the Lions or the Bucks. We'll see what happens. Dan, thank you. Brian Edwards is back talking NFL picks with me straight ahead in the final segment. Stay with us.